In many Tuscan villages you'll find churches just like San Pietro, neighbourhood churches that belong to us, to the people who live right here where the church is. But Nello, that if we want to restore this church, we have to do it ourselves. We're asking you for your help to restore the Church of San Pietro, Quartiere Pianello, Montalcino. Montalcino sits so high above the valleys, has beautiful views in every direction. It doesn't matter which part of the village you can always find panorama, beautiful landscapes, and of course looking back at the village itself, curling its way around this hill. In the middle distance here we can see the Church of San Pietro, a beautiful little church begun in the 1200s. Pianello has the responsibility of restoring that church. For 400 people, this is a huge task. We have managed to get some money from one of the banks, and with that money, we've actually restored the whole roof of the church, which was crumbling and causing a lot of interior damage. We've begun work inside the church, but there is still much to be done. In a courageous move about a year ago, at a Pianello meeting, we decided that we would launch our appeal for help internationally. We know whatever we do here, we have to do ourselves. With the help of the Bank of Monte dei Paschi di Siena, we have been able to accomplish a lot of the structural work in this church. And as this occurs, the church is coming back to life again. It is as if it's been dormant for decades, perhaps for 50, 60 years. It has not had any attention. Restoration of the Church of San Pietro began roughly a year ago. Our first commitment was the roof, because through the decades the roof had caused a tremendous amount of water to infiltrate the vault and the interior walls. Then work began on the interior of this church. The paint colour that you see is in fact the original restorers feel this church was painted in way back, probably in the 1200s. Among the treasures of this church is the organ commissioned for Montalcino. It is dated around the 1800s, but unfortunately it suffered a lot of damage in the Second World War, in the sense that a lot of these organs lost their lead as the lead was taken out in order to make cannon. One of our restoration plans is to restore this beautiful organ. There are many things in this church that date back to well before the year 1600. And therefore it is a patrimony of immense value, not only to Montalcino, but also to the whole of Italy. We're in front of the major altar. This is one of the most beautiful altars in all of the churches of Montalcino. This altar has amongst its other treasures beautiful marbles, travertine, white Carrara, Corinthian, and some wonderful statue work. It's had to be completely covered, obviously to protect it from dust. But I've been to the very top of this altar, right to where the cupids are, with our restorer Stefano, shaking around on those platforms whilst he showed me the damage through the years to the back of the altar, which has caused large blocks of travertine marble to actually dislodge themselves from the wall. So it has been for many, many decades in a very dangerous state. The two side altars are not marble or travertine, they're gesso, like a plaster work. However, the damage to them has been more severe because, of course, plaster won't withstand all the years of moisture or humidity that a marble altar will. But one of the loveliest treasures of this church that, again, we are still desperately seeking help to restore are the three pieces of art inside each of these altars. Ventura Salimbeni was a Sienese artist. The scene that Ventura Salimbeni painted is Christ handing the church to St. Peter. And of course we're in the Church of San Pietro in Montalcino. But because that canvas floats across the board, the tavola at the back, little tears and pinprick holes have appeared. And this has caused the pigment to actually flake off. However, the work is restorable. In fact, the colours in our art are still quite vibrant, considering that it has never been restored nor even cleaned for The second work of art in one of the lateral altars is in fact the Crucifixion, and it is not quite as badly damaged because that wall has not been saturated as much with water. But it is the third work that Ventura Salimbeni painted in this church which is of paramount importance. Again, it's on a lateral altar. This work of art brings and ufologists to Montalcino who contact our quartieri and me on occasions during the year because they want to view this painting. In the top half of the picture, you will see God the Father on one side and Jesus Christ on the other. But can you identify what that sphere is between them in the middle? Because the sea has a protrusion at the left-hand side at the bottom, and that protrusion, for our eyes today, is for all intents and purposes either a camera or a lens of some kind. And can you see the antennas that are rising from the top of the sphere? God has his hand on one antenna and Jesus Christ has holding the other. Now, many people will say, well, Christ was signifying the world with God and Christ in control, and they were holding the reins of something, perhaps it was the scepters of the church. But to other people, this sphere is almost an exact replica of the Sputnik called Vanguard that the Russians put into space in 1956. And if you're one of the people that would like to feel that this represents the world, well, there's a little problem with that theory. Why would they allow him to paint a round Earth when the church was teaching that the Earth was flat? And it was to be some 200 years before the church would acknowledge that. We have had permission to reproduce the most internationally known of Salimbeni's works, and we are offering this to you. We have created a Save San Pietro website. These are a limited edition numbered posters of one piece of work of Ventura Salimbeni. These three wonderful pieces of art must be restored. We must find the money. Of course, we are working here to do that as well. We have contacted many foundations, but it takes a lot of money because not only the artworks, but then of course the three altars must also be fully restored. We need your donation to help us restore these artworks and our organ.